Stepping out of an aircraft at 13,000 feet is a massive physical shock. In a fraction of a second, the human body goes from a pressurized, seated environment to sub-zero temperatures, hitting a 120-mile-per-hour wall of wind. While statistically rare, this sudden environmental shift can overload the human nervous system. Sometimes, the body's physiological response is to simply power down entirely and lose consciousness in midair. First-time jumpers often accidentally heighten this risk. To avoid nausea, they skip breakfast, leaving them to operate with low blood sugar and severe dehydration right when their body needs fuel the most. Mechanical reliability is only half the equation. Without proper hydration and nutrition to maintain consciousness, the jumper becomes a biological liability the moment they exit the door. Standing at the edge triggers a massive adrenaline surge. Heart rate spikes, but lacking fluid, circulating blood volume is dangerously low. This combination overwhelms the baroreceptor reflex, the body's blood pressure regulator. Without enough fluid to pump, blood simply drains away from the brain. The 120-mile-per-hour relative wind hitting the face often triggers breath holding or rapid hyperventilation. This drops the carbon dioxide levels in the blood, which physically constricts the brain's remaining blood vessels. This biological cascade results in vasovagal syncope, a sudden fainting spell triggered by an overreaction to stress or a drop in blood pressure. In a fraction of a second, an active human pilot is reduced to a passive object falling at terminal velocity. A conscious skydiver maintains stability by pushing their hips forward and their chest up. This creates a rigid, convex arch against the rushing air. By holding this shape, the jumper keeps their center of pressure, the point where wind forces push the body, safely above their center of gravity. It's an aerodynamic configuration that makes the human body naturally stable in freefall. When a skydiver goes entirely limp, the arch breaks. The limbs fall into asymmetric positions, and that smooth aerodynamic profile collapses into chaos. Without active muscle tension to steer, the jumper loses all aerodynamic stability. They are entirely at the mercy of the physical forces of the wind. The most dangerous consequence of this asymmetrical drag is a high-speed flat spin. The unconscious body catches the wind unevenly and begins to rotate rapidly along a horizontal plane, like a helicopter blade. This creates a physical threat entirely different from standard aviation G-forces. Instead of blood being pushed down into the legs, the rotation centers around the chest, forcing blood outward toward both ends of the body simultaneously. This outward pressure generates negative GZ forces, acceleration that drives blood from the heart toward the head. High-pressure blood is shoved violently into the skull, creating the risk of a readout, where vascular pressure causes retinal or cerebral hemorrhaging. The jumper is trapped. They are unconscious, physically pinned by rotational forces, bleeding out of your vision, and rapidly running out of altitude to deploy a parachute. When human biology fails, survival relies on an invisible piece of engineering, the automatic activation device, or AAD. Turned on at the drop zone before boarding, it calculates the ground-level barometric pressure, establishing a strict baseline for ground zero. During the skydive, the AAD continuously measures the changing barometric pressure to track two precise metrics at the same time: the jumper's current altitude and their exact rate of descent. This graph plots altitude against freefall speed. If the device detects the jumper crossing the 1,000-foot mark while still falling faster than 78 miles per hour, it registers an imminent fatal impact. At that exact microsecond, the system takes over. The microprocessor removes human error from the equation entirely, acting as an autonomous mechanical brain. The computer sends an electrical signal to fire a small pyrotechnic cutter, cleanly severing the heavy loop holding the reserve parachute closed. The jumper's 120-mile-per-hour fall is violently arrested as the reserve canopy deploys and pulls them upright just seconds before they reach the ground. Landing unconscious is brutal. Without the ability to flare, pulling the steering lines to slow the descent, the jumper hits the earth with the equivalent force of jumping straight off a 10-foot wall. Even on the ground, they aren't safe. An unconscious body left hanging in a harness suffers suspension trauma. This occurs when blood pools in the legs of a motionless, vertically suspended person, starving the heart and brain of oxygen. Surviving a mid-air blackout reveals how modern skydiving relies on engineering reliability to compensate for biological fragility. It is the triumph of an autonomous safety net designed to intervene even when the jumper's own body fails completely.